Good afternoon, and welcome to the annual engineering conference taking place right here in the beaches of Toronto, Ontario. My name is Dr. Owen Panksepp, and this is my colleague,
Dr. Liam Boone Walker. With the rising amount of global tension and conflict, here at the Very Emmy Institute, we feel it is highly important to address one of the technologies that has made this all possible. The particular technology we have researched and engineered is the cannon.
There are many energy transfers and transformations which take place when firing a cannon. Firstly, when the fuse is lit, this heats up to a very high temperature, which causes a chemical reaction creating the chemical potential energy previously stored in the gunpowder into heat. The heat gives kinetic energy to the molecules of air between the gunpowder and the projectile, causing them to expand rapidly. These molecules then transfer kinetic energy to the projectile shooting out of the barrel.
In real life, these energy transfers and transformations are never perfect. For example, a lot of the heat energy given off by the gunpowder is absorbed by the surrounding air and remains unused. Some energy is wasted on sound, and therefore we can determine that cannons are not 100% efficient.
The cannon was made soon after the invention of black powder, commonly known as gunpowder, in the early 13th century. Gunpowder was soon after used in firearms and eventually cannons. These firearms were first used in the Battle of Puyang. The use of gunpowder to make explosive weapons quickly spread to the rest of Europe.
The development of more advanced types of weapons such as guns and bombs eventually led to the criminal use of these weapons. Gangs and terrorist groups are now an example of what the invention of a cannon, guns, and bombs have led to. It is a fact that over 30,000 people die each year due to gun violence in America. The use of firearms has even become recreational in countries including USA, where the people have the right to bear arms. Overall, the cannon and what it has led to has had a major negative impact on society.
War has played a huge role in the global economy in many different ways that can be seen resonating throughout
Using
the
these
ages.
three simple formulas,
First
we
of
may
all,
calculate the
many
trajectory of the
governments spend
projectile
more
in a
on
cannon.
military than any other single item in their own countries, and that can create a huge drain on other services which are also essential. For example, the US government spends more on their own military than the other 15 countries trailing it spend on their military combined. Additionally, war and conflict can cause economic sanctions between countries, which can heavily dampen the effect of international business between these countries. Paradoxically, war has also in many ways helped the global economy at times of need. During the Great Depression in the 1920s, the beginning of World War II effectively ended the Depression, providing jobs for many, fueling the global war. Although the environmental impact caused particularly by cannons has been relatively small, cannons did pave the way to firearms, which has caused all of the war-based conflict in the last few hundred years. The environmental impacts of war can be broken down into three major sections. We can first see the major destruction of ecosystems in the Vietnam War, where the US government used Agent Orange to drive out the Viet Cong from cover in the forests. This caused a large-scale deforestation and took years for the forests to grow back to their natural state. Secondly, we can observe the radiological contamination caused by the Second World War. When the US bombed both Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, this rendered both of these cities inhabitable for a long period of time and took years to rebuild. Nuclear weapons continues to be a threat today, as North Korea, the US, and Iran, as well as a couple other countries, all have access to nuclear weapons and are developing them as we speak. Thirdly, the destruction of local environments. We can see this a lot in wars like the Gulf War, where many fires were set and many explosions were caused, which caused a drastic decrease in the air quality in that region and rendered them very dangerous for citizens to live in at the time. Lastly, the CO2 emissions caused by tanks, military vehicles, explosions, and gunfire have all contributed to global warming and are perhaps one of the more serious environmental impacts of war. The cannon that we have built for you today is a scaled down model of one of the very first cannons that was ever used. These cannons required you to manually load the gunpowder and the projectile into the barrel, which then was ignited. To replicate this, we created a combustion chamber where it is easy to load both the gunpowder and the projectile in, insert back into the main barrel, and then fire.
Despite its simplistic design, we faced many challenges when designing and building our scaled-down model of the cannon.